Hello everyone, welcome to the Let's Talk Marketing Analytics podcast, where we chat about all things related to data and predictive analytics. I'm your host, Han van der Schans, and I'm very excited because this is our very first episode. We have a nice conversation lined up for you today, and the conversation will be about how to get the most out of your data. And to help answer that question, I have Han Meijer with me here today. Hello Han.
Hey Harm, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Nice, good. Well, nice to be here.
Yeah, so Han is a Chief Strategy Officer, but I hear you're also a big fan of some sports.
Yeah, that's right. I really like sports.
And so how does sports and data mesh together? Is there an overlap there?
Yeah, I'm quite a fan of playing golf. You want to train and improve, and what you do is you go to the course and you have a couple of devices over there that measures all the details of your swing and how you hit the ball and all of that. And so I think, it's about why do you want to do that? You want to improve, you want to learn, you want to understand what you're doing, and therefore you need that data. And I think that's why I'm interested in that field, because in business it's actually the same thing. And if you want to improve, you need to know where you are now, you need to understand where you want to go, and you need to understand why things are going as they go, and then learn and improve.
Okay.
So I think it's related.
So, but a real important question then. Did you improve on golf? Are you now having a better handicap than before?
Yeah, it's constantly improving. So we're constantly working on the little things to make it better and better.
Great.
And also always when I train, it's always being measured. It's
right.
Always on the dashboard, and we evaluate and then pick the things that you need to improve. Yeah.
Yeah, and that really sounds like also something that a lot of companies should be doing, right? Collecting the right amount of data and such. So when we talk about a company being data-driven, it can mean a lot of things to people and also to companies. So, like, how do you define really that you are, like what you do in sports, that you are a data-driven organization?
Yeah, I guess it's, a lot of companies actually sort of work with their sales data, and that's how they set up their monitoring reporting. That's typically the things that are related to costs or revenue. But then the question is, when the revenue goes up or revenue goes down, why the companies don't always understand it if they don't do proper reporting or proper analysis of what's happening.
Right, yeah.
So I think, because if your revenue goes up, is it the market that is just growing and you grow with it, but your market share goes down maybe? Or is the market stable, and are you gaining share? And if you're gaining share, where is it? Which customer segment, which product segment? So where are you gaining and where are you losing, so to speak?
Yeah. So what's driving that? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it comes back to a company should be willing to understand why they are performing as they do, but if you're not measuring it, like in golf, you don't know where to improve. So I guess that's at the heart of the matter.
But also, like, you probably need more than a few sources of data then, right?
So that's right. So in golf is like, it's one device monitoring what you're doing, simple data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with a company, you have so many data sources, and a variety of those sources, and you need to, if it's available, right?
Yeah, of course.
You need to access the data and understand how to do that, how to bring all that data together.
Yeah, harmonize it.
Harmonize it, integrate it in order to create those insights.
Yeah.
And this is, of course, where our podcast is about. But I think more importantly, when you talk about getting most out of your data, it starts, in my mind, it starts with culture.
Yeah.
If you can have abundance of data, but if the management is not really data driven, or they are not really into use that data in order to improve, which is more a cultural element, then you will never get there.
Yeah, it needs
how much data you will have, you will never get there.
Yeah, it needs to be throughout the organization. So also from the top, as you're explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's most importantly the will to do this, and it's more strategic item in that sense.
Yeah, and then in your experience, what's the key difference between organizations that truly operate with that mindset that you just explained, and to those companies who are just talking about it?
Well, from my experience, I maybe have two experiences where one organization was really measuring, let's say, everything.
Yeah.
But they had the data sources, retail data, consumer data, panel data, financial data, and so they were doing all of that. But it was always part of a meeting. So the management team meeting was about, where can we improve?
Mm-hmm.
What is the data telling us? What is competition doing? So it was sort of at the heart of the decision making, the heart of the mindset of the management to use the data in order to improve and to learn.
Yeah.
So that's the cultural element. It was the other company, which was an interesting thing. So when the data came in, so the first company, when the data came in, everybody sort of jumped on it.
Yeah.
Like flies on
Okay. Yeah.
And the other company was sort of the data. And I looked at the other company, and when the data came in, nothing happened.
Right.
Nobody was actually sort of, they were busy with other things.
Right.
So in that sense, they were more, sort of dogs chasing cars, just running like hell, but didn't look at the data. And sometimes it took days or weeks before, some people actually did something with it, but a lot of people never did. They just looked at some high-level figures, never did the deep dives, never really did the things that are really important to understand. How effective are my promotions, or what was the price change doing in terms of share or sales? So rare things in that company. The first company, totally different.
Yeah.
They had the insights and the improvements already, within a couple of days. So it's totally different mindsets.
But that mindset is key, as you're explaining, right? So being data-driven is, if I understand you correctly, is not just about collecting the data and harmonizing and doing all the necessary work, but indeed also the culture to actually do something with the data.
Yeah, that's what you also see. So sometimes you see those where I have, my client experience is that typically the guys that were responsible for analytics and data were struggling inside their organization to get the funds and to get the resources in order to organize all of this. Why? Because some of the management or leadership was not really into it. So that's a cultural thing.
Right. And do you think a company should always seek out also external data, that they should look beyond their own borders to in being a data-driven company?
Yeah, I think that's where you dive into what we just talked about, revenue development going up and down. Is it the market? Is it competition? Is it a specific consumer segment? Or is it specific marketing mix elements, right? And those insights, that understanding comes from external data. Like, internal data being revenue data, sales data. but it doesn't explain. It explains over time how things are going up or down, but it doesn't explain the root causes. So you need external data to understand. Is my market going up or down? What's happening in specific price segments or product segments? What's happening with my marketing mix or my competitive activity? And those areas, those external data. External data is explaining those areas, and that's where the explanation comes from. So it's crucial to have external data and to master the art or the science to integrate those types of data.
Right.
That's crucial.
Yeah. So we've talked about culture, which is very important. You have to have the right mindset within the company to be able to work with it. And also the data itself, it needs to fit your need.
Correct.
You really need data beyond your own borders, but also I think lots of internal data you probably want to map. There's probably like different divisions have different data already available, right? So it's both elements. Both being data driven is a combination of the culture and of looking at the right data.
Absolutely, that's right.
Okay, so how does being data driven improve operational effectiveness in companies? And maybe do you maybe also have an example of how it can streamline processes?
Yeah, I think I have two examples. So one example is, actually what I do when I go into a company and I give my consultancy and advice. I also sometimes do a time registration with the teams.
Okay.
And what I want to know is in sales and marketing teams, is how much time where they spend their time.
Right.
So I have a couple of those examples, and so I created some kind of a benchmark.
Mm-hmm.
And what you saw is that, let's say, from 30 to 70% of the time of sales and marketing people, I'm not talking about staff like marketing research, I'm talking about, line management, the salespeople, brand management. Yeah, it varies between 30 and 70% of their time per week that they spend on data crunching.
Okay.
So that could be it could vary between gathering data, getting data out of systems,
right,
organizing that in an Excel sheet, and writing a report.
Right.
And so the 30 to 70%, it's an insane number in my mind, because when I hire a sales guy, I want a sales guy to sell,
right,
not to spend 70% of his time to do an analysis. That's sort of totally absurd. So when I go back to those clients, say, well, guys, this is what you do. It's not what I tell you. This is what your people have written their time. It's 30 to 70% data crunching, and it's salespeople. So the question I always ask is, so how many sales projects are actually on the shelf because you don't have enough capacity in sales to do them? So they start to count. Say, well, actually, when these people were not being occupied with data crunching 30 to 70% of their time, they could do much more sales initiatives, and all those projects could be executed.
Right.
So actually, you miss enormous amounts of commercial opportunity because you didn't organize your analytics and your data correctly, didn't automate it. So that's
also maybe not the right data, indeed.
Yeah. So So, but on the other hand, so the clients not all those clients implemented an automated system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't have the right culture. We just talked about it. They just still don't get it. But some of them did, and so what I also did sort of was a post evaluation, and see how that went. And I remember a moment where I was at the table talking with an analyst, and there was an email coming in from the CMO, and he said, "Oh, Han, just give me a minute. And he went to the system, the automated system, and he created a report in 2 minutes.
Right.
With all the root causes, all the issues, and he sent it back to her, and he got a reply. This is fantastic, within a couple of minutes, everything is on my table. So that's an enormous game. That's a game changer.
Right. Yeah. Lots of efficiency. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
because those salespeople could spend their time
more effectively,
and the insights department could answer all those questions.
Yeah.
On the spot.
That's even, I think, not the nicest work to do, right? Also collecting the data, making sure it all fits.
No, because it's painstaking, because you always make a mistake. So when you do it correctly, when it's automatically integrated correctly, etc., all that hassle is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, also, like if there are companies that are not doing it like that, right? Are there also risks involved? Like, hey, what are some things that companies are now doing not correctly if they do it like that? How does that impact their business?
Well, first of all, you have those, typically everybody knows it, you have those data silos or insight silos. Every department has its own truth.
Yeah.
And the problem is that sometimes higher management is being incentivized on certain KPIs that come from those data sets. So, before you know it, you don't have even, you may have decision-making problems, probably, most likely.
Yeah.
But you also get into political problems.
Yeah.
That people say, no, this is the truth. And probably the only reason is that, he will get an incentive or a bonus if that KPI is going the right way. So there's no single source of truth. There's no single set of KPIs that is measured correctly. It's siloed, and therefore there's no cooperation. The teamwork is not really effective. Decision making is suffering. And again, that swallows also an enormous amount of time. Political fights, fights about what's true.
Very inefficient.
It's very inefficient. So, and it doesn't make the whole, I think nowadays with young people that are more data driven than maybe other generations, it creates also a culture where young people cannot be really proud being part of. You should be proud of an environment where people work towards the same end.
Yeah.
We have the same insights. We have one source of truth. Decision making goes effectively, and then you can be really proud.
Yeah.
And I think people that are younger generations, specifically so, because they're much more into, that data culture.
Yeah. And all the way on the other end, right? So there's also companies who are not data driven yet. Maybe they have a little bit of the culture, they want to do it like that. But what's the risk if they continue what they're doing? Because I think most of those companies are doing stuff based on their gut feeling, of course. Mm-hmm. There's probably risk involved there as well, right?
Absolutely. I would like to invite people that are listening now to do some good reading. Mm-hmm. There's a nice book, Creating a Data Culture, from DJ Patel and Hilary Mason.
Okay.
But also another nice book is The Signal and the Noise by Nate Silver. Do some reading, do some thinking around this topic. Look into your own organization. Do we have a truly, good? Do we have the right mindset?
Yeah, the right culture.
And if there's questions about this topic, they can always send an email to us.
Yeah.
And let's also read those emails and respond to them. Of course, because I'm really interested. Because I'm still, my expectation is that in organizations these topics are improving and people are getting more and more aware.
Yeah.
But still, there's still clients where and prospects where we see that things are a little bit behind. If people are interested, they can send their questions and remarks, and we will respond to those.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're going to wrap this up in key takeaways for you guys listening. So we've talked about being a data-driven organization. It entails more than just the data. You have to have the right data, trying to connect the data, but also what Han explained, the culture is super important here as well. He gave the example of a company that had all the data but didn't do anything with it, or at least not with the right mindset. And that's really key, I think. Han, before we close off here, do you have any practical advice for people who are listening and saying like, hey, how can I start implementing this?
Yeah, in my mind, start small. So you just start experimenting with it. It could be, a department that gets in regular data, create a report and use it in every meeting, and just get used to it. Or when you want to understand more about, your promotional or pricing activity, create some analysis around that, and start to do that regularly. So start small, and when you have sort of the hang of it, and you feel, what it may mean to automate this type of stuff, then create a case with a good advisor, a consultant, in order to see what data do we have, is the data usable, can it be integrated, what types of insights can we get out of it, and will that help our company to improve and be better. So sort of create a case in that respect, and then start building that capability. And it could be, you do it maybe in a country, or you do it for a specific category. So not go for the big bang, but start somewhere, integrate the data, create that analytical layer, create the insights that you need, or the analysis that you need, the regular reporting.
And all the while also probably
train your people.
And invoke the culture.
The culture,
Talk
and
with
also,
other
I saw companies where there were countries and managers in countries that were totally not into this because they didn't have that background, they were not raised that way. But also countries where it was they very much were data driven already in terms of the general manager and the team. And so we started there. And then you can create that culture, and it will sort of evolve and become bigger over time.
All right, thanks Han for your practical tips. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please subscribe to the podcast as there will be regular episodes. Today was the first podcast in the series How to Get the Most Out of Your Data, and we focused on being data-driven by talking about data availability and company culture. We will also host different series on different marketing analytics topics, such as marketing mix modeling, multi-touch attribution, revenue optimization through price and promotion insights, and many more. Also, please check out our blog post at ScanmarQED.com, as we regularly have interesting articles on these topics as well. If you have a great question or topic for a podcast, please send an email to podcast@ScanmarQED.com. I've been your host, Harm van Schans. Thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
Thank you very much.